on the current status of the Daily Stormer and the weird events surrounding it. Posted on andrewanglinblog.wordpress.com on August 25th, 2017. As I write, it is currently unclear what will happen to punishstormer.com, which was registered on DreamHost. However, assuming that they have decided not to host the Daily Stormer, I will leave the site on the darknet for the time being. The up and down of the on and off is tiring and emotional, both for me and my team, and no doubt for the reader as well. Every web host has given a different but equally nonsensical explanation for these bans, indicating that the site has officially been banned from the internet by some unseen force that gives orders on such things, and it is going to take more than a new registrar to get it back on the real internet. On the darknet, the site shall remain until one of these 5 things happen. 1. I am able to get it in writing from a registrar that they will not fold. 2. The government steps in and tells registrars that they do not have the ability to censor legal content. 3. A court order is given that the Daily Stormer has a right to be registered somewhere. 4. GoDaddy, my original registrar, decides to take me back. Or 5. A domain outside of ICANN's system becomes accessible. For option number 4, I don't need an apology. The firing of the CEO, announced Tuesday, is as much of an admission of wrongdoing as I need. Reuters and other media is implying that his resignation was due to the poor decision to terminate my site, which set off this whole chain of extremely bizarre and perhaps somewhat entertaining events. Quote, this news comes after GoDaddy said on the 13th of August that it had forced the Daily Stormer to move its domain to another provider, after the extremist website posted an article denigrating the woman who was killed at a white nationalist rally in Virginia. We informed the Daily Stormer that they have 24 hours to move the domain to another provider, as they have violated our terms of service, GoDaddy posted on its official Twitter page. End quote. It would be logical for GoDaddy to say, well, we changed our mind, but it is extremely unlikely due to the political implications of such a move. However, it is now absolutely clear that the decision was a mistake for them, and for the whole of the tech industry, hence the resignation, which is rather transparently a firing. It only took 10 days after the company abandoned its neutrality policy for the media to start demanding they ban more content. Vice published an article today musing about why, since they banned the Daily Stormer, they are not banning recent, quote, fappening nude photographs of celebrities which were the result of a hack. I haven't been following it closely, but it appears as though some celebs failed to update their iPhones, rather than the fault of Apple. When contacted, GoDaddy claimed that the Daily Stormer was different, because we were inciting violence. Quote, GoDaddy was also the domain registrar for the Daily Stormer, and it chose to drop the site for inciting violence, claiming it violates its terms of service. For what it's worth, GoDaddy, and every other web service like it, has to comply with the law, but largely maintains the freedom to decide what its terms of service are. It does not specifically ban non-consensual pornography. When we asked GoDaddy about this, a spokesperson acknowledged that the case of hacked photos was different. Yes, this is a different situation from dailystormer.com, the spokesperson said. dailystormer.com violates the GoDaddy terms of service by inciting violence. However distasteful the content of this site, Celeb Jihad, may be, it is not inciting violence. If GoDaddy received a court order regarding the domain in question, we would act accordingly. Cloudflare did not return a request for comment about why it continues to protect sites like Celeb Jihad. End quote. This position is indefensible for the simple reason that it is not true. While not directly saying it, the spokesperson also seems to imply that the Daily Stormer was taken down as a result of a court order, which is also untrue. I have not committed any crime, and I am not being accused of a crime. The original statement from the company made to the New York Times did not even make the claim that I was inciting violence, simply that they believe my humorous post could incite violence. Quote, Dan C. Race, a GoDaddy spokesman, said in an email on Monday that his company had given the site 24 hours to find another domain provider. Given the Daily Stormer's latest article comes on the immediate heels of a violent act, we believe this type of article could incite additional violence, which violates our terms of service, he added. End quote. Of course, any individual is capable of believing anything, and any content is capable of inciting violence. There are people who believe the Earth is flat, and the Manson killings were incited by Beatles songs that Charlie thought he was hearing secret messages in. Groundless belief in vague, statistically non-quantifiable potential outcomes are not the basis for any mature adult's decision-making process, and certainly should not be the basis for the decision-making process of the leadership of major multinational corporations, especially those which have the ability to decide what printed materials the public is allowed to have access to. And, as Vice noted, actress Jennifer Lawrence has said that she believes that posting of her hacked nude photographs is a form of sexual violence. Of course, GoDaddy has now transformed their belief into a statement of fact. The Daily Stormer was inciting violence. The media itself has not even pretended to take the claim by GoDaddy seriously. The fact of the matter is that I was banned from the internet for a joke, that while being obviously offensive was nothing more or less than a joke. Although explaining a joke kills the fun of it, I think at this point, this having become one of the most infamous jokes in history, and a joke which has in fact altered history, I can go ahead and explain it. We have a culture of outrage. The direction of our society is determined by who can become the most offended, and make the most noise about how offended they are. I have a belief, which is supported by logic and data which I may present on this personal blog at a later date, that this outrage culture is not only ridiculous, but sociologically unsustainable. The Daily Stormer is a performance art project, and the Andrew Anglin who writes for it is a character I have invented. I am not a neo-Nazi white supremacist. In fact, I do not even know what that is. It has not ever been defined by the people who use it, despite repeated requests for a definition. I am also not a hater, nor do I know what that term means when it is used to refer to me. It would seem to be self-explanatory, a person who is driven by the emotion of hate. And yet I am not driven by hate, but rather a genuine desire to see Western civilization continue into the future. One could even say that I am driven by love, if one wanted to get sappy about it. Though we share the same name, the Andrew Anglin who appears on the site is not me, but a character that I have created, an outrageously extreme individual who takes pleasure in being provocative, and maintains an unhinged desire to commit numerous genocides. Though it doesn't matter who I am, as the only thing that matters is my plan, it may be worthwhile to let the record show that I am a very nice person, who has always treated people of all races as individuals, in any and all of my one-on-one interpersonal interactions. It may also be interesting to note that while most of my critics have lived in insulated, white, upper-class environments for their entire lives, save for perhaps a few paid volunteer trips to third-world countries, where they live in a sanitized, controlled environment for a week or two as they rack up social justice points, I have spent most of my adult life outside of the Western world, most of it in third-world countries populated by non-whites. At one point in my mid-20s, I spent the better part of a year living with a primitive jungle tribe in a bamboo hut. As an actual human being, I do not resemble the character of Andrew Anglin, which, with the enthusiastic assistance of the media and groups such as the SPLC, I have created for the Daily Stormer. A big part of what I do with the Andrew Anglin character on the Daily Stormer is trigger the outrage culture, in order to expose the fundamentally flawed nature of it, as well as to draw attention to myself and my agenda, which would otherwise simply be ignored. That certainly worked with the Heather Heyer piece. Making fun of dead women as the original sin. Making fun of a dead woman's weight and mocking her lack of children at an age far past peak fertility appears to be a sort of ultimate heresy in the outrage culture. but the only reason for this is that the outrage is politically powerful. No one truly cares that this woman is dead, save for perhaps her family members. She's just a random person, and random people die all the time. No one throws a fit over it. Dead people get made fun of all the time and no one throws a fit over it. There is a website and an entire series of books entitled The Darwin Awards, devoted to making fun of people who die in ridiculous ways. Quote, "The Darwin Awards are a tongue-in-cheek honor originating in Usenet newsgroup discussions around 1985. They recognize individuals who have supposedly contributed to human evolution by selecting themselves out of the gene pool via death or sterilization by their own actions. The project became more formalized with the creation of a website in 1993, and followed up by a series of books starting in 2000, authored by Wendy Northcutt. The criterion of the awards states, 'In the spirit of Charles Darwin, the Darwin Awards commemorate individuals who protect our gene pool by making the ultimate sacrifice of their own lives. Darwin Award winners eliminate themselves in an extraordinarily idiotic manner, thereby improving our species' chances of long-term survival.'" End quote. They catalog the deaths of people whose own stupidity gets them killed, and the deaths are very often gruesome. One could certainly make the argument that both of those things were true in the case of Heather Heyer's death. It seems objectively unwise for a person of that size to attend a rally with the purpose of inciting violence, and the road rage incident was itself absurd. The events following the incident, which included claims by the media, local officials, and national politicians that the crash was a premeditated act of terrorism, intensified the absurdity of the situation. So, the assertion that it is somehow evil to make fun of a dead person does not have any cultural precedent. Exploiting the death of Heather Heyer was politically useful for a mob of fanatics who wished to drastically transform, or perhaps outright abolish, Western culture. Of course, I have also exploited her death for political purposes. I think I did it much more honestly, but that is not especially important to me. The real joke, like all of my best jokes, was not the post itself but the response that I knew it would provoke. Certainly, I had no idea the joke would go this far. Right now, we are talking about a complete transformation of the tech industry. Some of the most powerful people in the world, as well as society at large, are considering the fact that these few megacorporations are capable of unifying together in order to ban legal content from the internet, and beginning to draw the conclusion that this situation is incredibly dangerous. I intended the article to be socially significant, and to prove a point. In fact, though it has brought hell down on me personally, the results were more than I ever could have hoped for. Right now, we are seeing the beginnings of a real conversation about the government regulating the domain registry system. Any move by the government to regulate tech would of course go further than that, and result in a much larger scale regulation of this industry which has become much too powerful to remain in private hands. Excluding the media and the megacorporations themselves, no one on any side of the political spectrum likes the idea of a cabal of billionaires effectively being able to unilaterally control the direction of society. Needless to say, I am extremely happy with the results of this particular piece of performance art. The fallout from it shows that the ruling powers are extremely unhappy with the way things shook out. They miscalculated. They made me into a folk hero and a martyr, and they turned themselves into megalomaniac supervillains intent on suppression of speech to direct the course of society. It could not have come together more perfectly. I will overcome these setbacks, as I always have, and the amount of people listening to me will grow to numbers I could have never imagined 2 weeks ago. In the future on this blog, the powers that wish to shut down the agenda of social transformation that I am working on, they have a vested interest in maintaining the idea that the Andrew Anglin character exists as a real person, and that his plan is pure evil. That he is a genocidal maniac out of some children's comic book who must be put down at any cost. If this blog is allowed to remain up, and it should, as long as I uphold my pledge to not talk about politics on it, as it is ostensibly only my politics that have been banned from the internet, and not me as an individual, then I will elaborate here on the concept of Daily Stormer as performance art. This concept is something that any regular reader is already aware of. Part of the process of understanding the site is coming to the realization that the format it is presented in is a form of performance art. The esoteric nature of it is an adventure for the reader, like the process of joining a secret club. However, the purpose of maintaining the character was to gain mass media attention by creating spectacle. That is a mission, I believe that I can fairly say, has been accomplished. Presently, I have a duty to make my ideas accessible to the wider audience that this massive media exposure has given me, and that requires me to go through the heart-wrenching process of breaking character and explaining the nature of my art. The Daily Stormer was never the place for such a project, as the Andrew Anglin who writes the Daily Stormer must remain at the helm of that ship. So it is fitting that right now the Daily Stormer is fixed on the darknet, and the only place that those unwilling to go through the trouble of figuring out how to view it will see my writing is here, where I remain apolitical, a dictate of the Silicon Valley elite, and instead simply provide meta-commentary on the nature of the project. I may also reveal more personal details about myself, the life I have lived, and perhaps tell of my understanding of human existence, and all of existence as a spiritual phenomenon, rather than a material one. If this blog were to be banned, proving that I am banned as a human being from the internet, that would simply accelerate the debate about the ongoing process of unpersoning that I have been put through, and thus, while being personally unfortunate, ultimately serve my goal of causing a breakdown of the present project of authoritarian corporate shutdown of the free flow of information on the internet. Andrew Anglin, Letters from Internet Prison, written August 24th, 2017.